A big warm welcome to the Body Love Revolution online summit, Building a Better Relationship with Your Body. Today, I have got the lovely Jen Dugard, and I'm going to share a little bit about Jen, my next beautiful guest. So, Jen is the founder of MumSafe, creator of the pre and postnatal certification Safe to Return to Exercise. Jen's also the author of a book, How to Love Your Body as Much as Your Baby. With over 17 years of industry experience, Jen is dedicated to enhancing the standards of care for mothers within the fitness community and beyond. Jen's dual mission is to serve both mothers and exercise professionals. Thanks, Jen, for being here. I am so happy you're here. Can you share a little bit more about yourself, Jen, and how you do support mum and exercise professionals? Take it away, my love.
Thanks for having me, Emma. I'm very, very excited to be here with your beautiful community. So MumSafe really does stand for improving the way mums are looked after across the fitness industry. And we do that in two ways. So my role and my responsibility, I've evolved from being a trainer that works with mums. So actually my background is I spent 10 years running a mums and bubs fitness group in Sydney Centennial Park, and we grew that to be the biggest mums and bubs group in Sydney. And then I got to the point where I was like, I want to reach more mums. So in order to do that, if I start to share my information with exercise professionals that work with mums, then we can 100 times, 1,000 times the impact that we're able to have. So I spend my days now at MumSafe. We recruit trainers that either already work in the pre and postnatal space or really want to work in the pre and postnatal space. We make sure that they've got a really good pre and postnatal certification. Then we provide them with ongoing education in working with women and mums. We partner them with pelvic health physios. And I guess for the consumer, so for the mum themselves, what they then know is if they see MumSafe trainer on their trainer's bio or advertising, or the trainer tells them that they're a MumSafe trainer, they can really trust that that trainer knows what they're doing. So we're really about elevating the standards of pre and postnatal exercise. And when I say pre and postnatal, mums of all ages and stages, because we know once postnatal, always postnatal. So we want to make sure mums of even older children get looked after in a way that they really should within the fitness industry.
Mm. I really love the ethos of we're always postnatal, because the truth is, once we do create a beautiful little human and birth this human, we are changed. And I am positively sure you have probably spoken about this many times, but Instagram has done a beautiful job of saying, get your pre-baby body back. How many times have you had to speak to this, Jen? I know. But what's your ethos on that? When we hear that and see that from someone who looks like they are a health professional, but perhaps has not had some mum safe training, this is just the layman Emma knowing that potentially that could be dangerous and not supportive to that beautiful new mummy, or that mummy who has had children and never returned perhaps her pelvic floor body connection again, because I know you talk a fair bit about that. But thinking about that notion that pre baby body, what's your thoughts around this, Jen?
Oh, we ran it was 3 years we ran the campaign, and the campaign was actually called No More Pre-Baby Body. So you can go search the hashtag on all the social medias and you'll find our pushback on, if we could do nothing else in the fitness industry but stop from an aesthetic or body image perspective, stop personal trainers using get your pre-baby body back as an incentive to bring women in, or even saying those words in their goal setting sessions, then we would be doing a good thing out in the world. We all know that new mums and mums of older children, so we need to bounce between both. But if we talk about new mums for a second, you're under so much pressure as a new mum. You're navigating a relationship with yourself, a relationship with a new child, a relationship with a partner, your relationship with your identity in the whole world. And the last thing that you need is that added pressure of society now says that my number one concern should be to make my body look like it's not birthed a child. And there is no such thing as a pre-baby body. Well, there is, but you cannot get your pre-baby body back. There's no such thing as getting your pre-baby body back. It's like saying I want my 15-year-old body back. It's literally not at all possible. And I think the fitness industry has done a really good job. And Instagram and society and all the rest of it, of making this something that women should aspire to. And we really need to push back and help women, understand that their self-worth is so much more than the size and the shape of their body. And by if you're a mum and you walk into a gym or a fitness training environment, and the first thing, and you're someone that has thought your whole life that smaller is better. And I know, like, my age group, and I think we're probably a similar age. Like, we grew up in, size zero culture. No, there wasn't Instagram, but the only imagery we saw on in magazines were literally size zero women. So we didn't even have the diversity that you can go looking for on social media. So we've been fed our whole lives that smaller is better. Then we have a baby. And then the second that we go back out into society, we're told again that our number one mission should be to be smaller. We're then reinforcing that our self-worth is wrapped up in the size and shape of our body. So we really need to change the messaging and make sure that women really do understand that. And yeah, like, there's so many different directions we could go in with this, and it's such a can of worms, and it's also so individualized.
But I love your ethos because I agree with all of that. And it feels like it's just another play into the diet culture and another layer. Then now we put stuff on mums about this pre-baby body and tell her again that's reinforced that now she's now used by, she's got a use by date because now her body has birthed a child. It is
Yep.
so flawed. And that's why your work is so empowering, because it is saying to mums, and I'm making an assumption here, but I would assume, well, no, I'm not making an assumption because I do know that you do lots of education around. I've been at a talk when you have presented and talked about the pelvic floor, and even just education that women are getting around birthing a child or going to the bathroom or all of those things is incorrect. So even when we think about going to just any random gym after giving a birth, perhaps you're not in the hands of someone who can actually help you
Mm,
through this very gentle, sensitive part of now being a mum in a mum's body, a body that's given birth.
exactly that.
Yeah. So, Jen, if you were to speak to a new mum or even a mum that has, because really, like you're saying, every mother that's birthed a body, if you were to speak to a mum that is feeling a little bit insecure about her body and knows that there has been changes, but has a desire to go back to some sort of movement, but the idea of a gym is not inviting and quite terrifying, what could you suggest to her? Where could she start to build this relationship with her body again?
Yeah, I think education or empowerment comes with education, right? And I think one of the reasons that, we put this emphasis on our aesthetic body, like what we look like, but a lot of it, the insecurity after you've had a baby or as you get older as well, because your body changes again as you move through your life as a woman, is that we're never provided with proper education about our body. And this starts when we're a teenager. You get your period, maybe your mum throws some tampons at you, maybe you're in a house where it's a little bit more openly talked about, but there's not a massive conversation around how your body's changing and what that means. Then become pregnant. All the education that's provided to us in pregnancy is usually, or a lot of it is about how to look after your body to support the baby. Even when you're going through pregnancy and you're learning about birth, it's how you're going to do the birth, not how you're going to do the birth in the best way for your body. So we talk about pain relief and all that kind of thing, but we don't educate a woman on her pelvic floor, on her abdominal wall, on, what might be the best birth experience for her from a physiological perspective. And then postpartum, there is no standard information delivered to women after they've had babies. Number one, about their body, and number two, about how to, move forward into the exercise or movement of their choice. So that was a very long-winded way of answering your question, but I think the number one thing is for her to get educated. So no matter where you are in your journey as a woman, who can you seek out, or how can you start to understand what has happened to your body, why it is doing the things that it is doing? And let's just say everything that is happening with anybody's body is normal. We just don't understand, or sorry, is probably, let's say that we use the word common. Everything that we're experiencing is common, even though we think that we're the only one. But it's not normal to live with the things that don't feel right for the rest of our lives. So going to see a pelvic health physiotherapist in pregnancy, early postpartum, or at any stage postpartum, especially if you've never seen or heard of one before, to really understand your pelvic floor, understand your abdominal wall. If there's any incontinence, common again, not normal to live with for the rest of your life, and really find those trusted people that can support you on that journey. So the pelvic health physiotherapist would be a really big one. And then if you are, wanting to get support on your exercise journey, talking to the person that you're thinking of working with and asking them for their credentials, asking them for what they do, what certifications do they hold, do they work in partnership with a pelvic health physio? Because anyone in the fitness industry that is working with a mum that knows what they're doing will have a relationship with a pelvic health physio.
It's great tips. I'm thinking back, and I know it was, 20 years ago and 23 years ago, I gave birth to my children, but you're right. It was just thinking about the birth. And then after that, there was no education for the mother. I didn't receive anything about what it even, I mean, I know that I had diagrams and understood that my pelvic floor were going to open up to birth a child, but then going back to work, and I was a hairdresser at that stage. And I remember going back to work and standing. I
Mhm.
couldn't stand all day like I used to stand after
Yeah,
becoming a mum.
yeah.
It just
From a
really,
pelvic floor perspective,
from a
it felt
pelvic floor
heavy,
perspective.
heaviness, like a,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So knowing that, my body had changed, but didn't know it. And like you said, it's common, but you shouldn't live with it. Like it's these common things, but it's not actually, we don't have to suffer.
No, and that's what women are taught our whole lives. Oh, you've got painful periods. Oh, that's just a normal part of having a period. Oh, you're leaking after you've had a baby. Oh, that's just a normal part. It's not. I mean, it is very normal and we're all experiencing them, but it's not normal to live with that and not be educated and not be able to self-advocate to people that will actually listen. So it's really important to seek out those people and those practitioners or medical professionals that will take you seriously and will listen.
And I think that's what I love about the title of your book, Love Your Body as Much as You Love Your Baby.
Yeah.
Because we pour so much into our babies and our children, and often we're on the back burner. But as we know, the mum can't continue to take care of everyone unless they are well and they are doing great. But quite often we don't. So in your beautiful book, would that be a first place for someone to start, Jen, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I will caveat the book is 12 years old. So there are some, like the concepts are the same, the philosophies are the same. There's some teaching things in there or some things around food that I might not align with in the same way that I did. But absolutely a lot of the concepts, some of the education around abdominal separation has developed a little bit over time, but it'd be a really good starting place. And the key message in there anyway is see a pelvic health physio when it comes to the body. So absolutely, the book is still you can buy it on Amazon or those places online.
Yeah, great, great.
Yep.
So do you think, Jen, everybody should see a pelvic floor physio?
I think everyone that's had a baby should see one, and I also think that everyone who is experiencing something that doesn't feel normal. And again, we keep using this word normal. So I'll give an example, which one might be better. If you are a woman who's never had a baby, you are experiencing recurring UTIs, you experience painful sex, sometimes maybe you get lower back pain. Probably your story is that you've been to a GP and then the GP sent you to a gynecologist and the gynecologist has gone take some antibiotics and then that didn't work. So you went to someone else and they said the same thing because you keep the main symptom is these recurring UTIs. Now, when you pair recurring UTIs with painful sex, lower back pain, there's other signs and symptoms as well. Could also be leaking, but it could possibly be what we call a hypertonic pelvic floor, which means your pelvic floor is too tight. It causes UTIs because it's so tight that it can't. Every time you go to the bathroom, you don't release all of the urine from your bladder, and what that means is the urine stays there and becomes susceptible to infection. Obviously, then when you start to think about a pelvic floor that's too tight, painful sex makes sense because you can't relax. If you are leaking as well, a lot of people think that leaking is a lower toned pelvic floor, but if your pelvic floor is too tight, it can't contract to keep you continent. So that person may also experience incontinence. But I wouldn't want to say 100 times, but 80% of the time, if you've not seen a pelvic health physio and they're your symptoms, then going to see one is going to actually get you some results that endless antibiotics is never going to do for you. So if I go back to the question, should everyone see a pelvic health physio? No, we don't all need to go see them. But if you're experiencing something that is not is actually not just moving through normal life without pain and without symptoms, then yes, go and see a pelvic health physiotherapist.
Great tip. And I'm also going at a stage of life, I'm now in menopause. And the
Yep.
conversation a couple of weeks ago, one of my girlfriends in menopause, because she's got a little bit of leaking happening, she's actually seeing one too. So even for our menopause mummies who are, they're perfect, huh?
Yeah. And also, there's this huge conversation about menopause in the marketplace at the moment, which I think is fantastic. However, research suggests 77% of women will have a baby. So 77% of those women now going through menopause have also birthed a child in one way, shape, or form. If you've not looked after your body and you've not got pelvic floor support in that pre and postnatal phase, as your hormones change, you're more likely to have pelvic floor stuff going on later on. So you're more likely to be susceptible to prolapse later in life or leakage or all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go back and say for women that have had a baby, I 100% believe every single woman that's ever had a baby should go and see a pelvic health physiotherapist. I just didn't want to say every woman should see one just because.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Even if someone's had a cesarean, because
Yep.
they've carried uterus, they've carried, yeah.
Yeah, they've had a baby on their pelvic floor for 9 months. And what's the reason they had a C-section? So she could have been pushing for a long time pre having that C-section, which actually could be caused by a hypertonic two tight pelvic floor that couldn't relax during labor, which therefore meant she couldn't push the baby out, which therefore means that she's had a C-section. She might have been really well educated pre having a baby and known her pelvic floor was too tight, so she elected for a C-section, and then we would still want to get her to see a pelvic health physio. So there's very few cases that I would, after a woman's had a baby, say, no, don't bother seeing a physio. Like, absolutely if they're symptomatic, but there's so many things that could be going on that are asymptomatic, meaning you're not getting any symptoms, that if we are aware of them now, like you can have a prolapse that's not symptomatic. So imagine you're a woman who, wants to exercise, loves exercising, wants to exercise hard. You've got a slight prolapse after having a baby. There's another thing, like 60% of women, when they think that they're drawing their pelvic floor up, they're actually pushing down. So they get that brain muscle connection mixed up, which is another reason to see a pelvic health physio, because they'll make sure you're doing it right. But if we go back to the woman that wants to exercise, she's got a slight prolapse, not symptomatic at the moment. She feels really good. She's, aside from that, she seems to have, let's say bounced back.
Yeah.
But every time she does a pelvic floor contraction, instead of drawing up, she pushes out. So now when she's in the gym environment, let's say she's lifting a weight, like decent weights, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 kilos deadlifts, but her trainer or she thinks in her brain, activate, pelvic floor brace, whatever the terminology is you use, that brain muscle connection is mixed up. Instead of drawing up, she's now bearing down under that load. And so it makes sense then that that woman is pushing out every time she lifts, and she's going to be more susceptible to prolapse over time.
Yes, brilliant information, Jen. I feel that this seeing a physio for this, particularly this should be like going to the dentist and having our eyesight checked.
It should be on Medicare.
It should, and it's there you go. It should be on Medicare because if we think about the amount of women, so all of our beautiful women who are listening, this is such a great tip. Building a better relationship with our body and wanting to do all the things. This is a checkup, even like it's like a
Absolutely.
basic checkup, like teeth and eyes. And I hope and pray that the thing is you're all good, honey. Off you go. Keep doing what you're doing. You are, when you're lifting your weights or when you're doing your exercise, you're right on track. But those of us who are potentially have got something there that we didn't even know we've got, but it's going to be a problem, like you say, particularly that weightlifting
Mm.
example, which in menopause, that's what we're all doing because we're saying, we've got to get our body
This is the
composition, our
thing,
strength.
right? We want to, we don't want, we're saying we want women under 40 to lay down as much muscle as possible, over 40 to continue to maintain and build that muscle if they can, but we're not managing their pelvic floor health. So it's almost like this contradiction in terms that it's almost too late. It's not too late, and I never want to say it's too late because it's never too late to start, but it's almost like, why aren't we doing this back here before we're doing, we're encouraging it in menopause.
Well, again, we're not being set up to win,
No.
are we?
No.
Again, yeah,
How did
unfortunately,
the medical industry not like I kind of struggle with this. Like at the end of the day, I'm a personal trainer. I've got a lot of great experience. I've learned a lot of amazing things from the pelvic health physios I work with, but it's not rocket science.
yeah,
It's like, how does the medical industry not go, oh, preventative care? That would be a really good idea. Let's make sure women understand their pelvic floors in pregnancy so that when they come to push a baby out, they know that they can not only contract but relax their pelvic floor, which
yeah,
might lead to less birth trauma, even
yeah,
less pelvic floor dysfunction, less, pelvic floor dysfunction then may lead to um, the relationship with herself, so mental and emotional, which then leads to potential outcomes in her relationship and in the worst cases in the relationship that she has towards her baby. So there's just so much to it
yeah.
that I don't understand why this is not just a thing.
Yeah, because we've talked about the physical, but that's absolutely right, Jen. Then it's the confidence knocking, and particularly if there is a little bit of incontinence or painful sex or all of those things, it's almost like the medical industry is just not wanting to talk about our vaginas. They've just not wanted to
Or
go.
they will talk about it in a very isolated, and not everyone's like this. So there's
Yes.
amazing obstetricians that are now partnering with pelvic health physio. So I just want to, make sure that we're not trying to diss
Yeah.
anybody. Um, and it feels very like, well, we got you through the birth.
Yeah.
That's it. Actually delivered a presentation in a medical conference a couple of years ago, and came after a very, well-regarded obstetrician who was talking about how they try and prevent tearing during the birth process. And he was talking about, massaging the perineum as the baby's coming out and a warm compress. And I'm like, dude, you've kind of missed the boat because you've just had 40 weeks of pregnancy to get her to a pelvic health physio, to understand if her pelvic floor is too tight, to then have her under the care of a pelvic health physio throughout that pregnancy to teach her how to release her pelvic floor. And now you're trying to, put out fires in the birth. And it's
Yeah.
like, say that, probably should have done. But I just don't understand.
Yeah.
And if I don't
That
understand, what does everyone, yeah.
exactly. Who's going to support our women? That's why you're an advocate for women, Jen. This is why we need you. And this is such a wonderful conversation. I've learned so much just around this. And I think I'm off to see a pelvic floor physio myself, which I know will be very, very helpful
Yes,
because this is part of taking good care of ourselves and that relationship with our body.
absolutely.
So, Jen, if we were to direct women for, like you said, this is a little bit of your own education as well as seeing a professional. So, if they were to start with their own education, where would we send them? What do you have on offer? And how do we find a pelvic floor physio?
Yeah, so you could go, or anyone can go to the MumSafe website. So if they were to go to mumsafemovement.com, there's two resources on there. One of them is a pelvic health physio directory. So you can actually go in there, put your location in, and see if there's a pelvic health physiotherapist in your area. We've got hundreds of physios on there, but if someone was to not be able to find one, next best thing is to shoot us an email or head over to the MumSafe Movement Instagram and shoot us a message on there, and we'll help to link you up with a physio. And then in terms of education, we actually have a free 5 phase program on our website. It is called Safe Return to Exercise for New Mums. But what I'd say is if you've never had any education as a mum about your body, you're going to get value from that um, it's a mini course. It's included in there is understanding your birth story. So we find a lot of mums don't even know what happened during their birth to be able to put the pieces together afterwards. We have the CEO of Cope on there, Dr. Nicole Hyatt, talking about mental health. So we have a mental health element. We have a physiotherapist comes in and really explains pelvic floor, abdominal wall, all of that kind of thing. And then we've got some postural exercises and basic exercises that you can start to do. And like I said, even if your baby is 16, if you've had no guidance at all, you're going to take value away from that, and you can move through it quickly and or slowly. And then if you want to go further than that, you could search up for a MumSafe trainer in your location from our website.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Jen. Thanks so much for your pearls of wisdom. And you are so passionate about this, which is wonderful because we need someone as an advocate for our mum, but also education. Just the education on this is wonderful. But I do trust and hope that we are moving forward. The new mums coming through, like you say, have got obstetricians and now teaming up with pelvic floor specialists, which is wonderful. Like you said, great example, not getting to the birth and trying to help the mum work through this birth as safe as possible to deliver a baby, but back at the, week one of, or, when we find out we're pregnant, to ensure that we're able to deliver and then take care of our body after.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my darling Jen. Awesome conversation. And I'll have in the show notes for everybody where that they can find you. But yes, MumSafe on Instagram is probably a great place, but I'll have all the links there. But thank you, Jen. Thanks so much for your great info.
Thanks for having me.